Good afternoon from Suffolk Constabulary. I'm here with Inspector Richard Hill of the Resource Management Unit. Richard, thank you so much for talking with Policing TV.
No problem.
Resource management, it sounds reasonably self-explanatory, but fill in the gaps for us as to what your role and the role of the team working to you is.
Yeah, so I'm a manager of 10 police staff that operate throughout the whole of Suffolk, and our task is to make sure that we've got sufficient officers to manage daily demand, primarily on our response teams and on our safe neighbourhood teams. We have target figures which we are aimed to try and fulfil, and we know that those have been measured against demand to make sure that we've got enough people to deal with our daily business. So that's our primary position, is making sure that we're able to get those bums on seats effectively to deal with our day-to-day core policing. Over and above that, we're then tasked with also dealing with other challenges such as crime scenes, major events, football, Latitude, which we're currently running at the moment.
So that's a festival coming up in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, so music festivals, or any other kind of key events that take place where additionality is required of resourcing to make sure that we're in a position to deal with that. So there's always a balance really between making sure that we've got the ability to deal with that additionality and making sure that we've got enough people to deal with our daily resourcing, and then also making sure that we've got the sufficient skills and specifics that we need to make.
So you need, for example, appropriately qualified response drivers.
Yes.
You need perhaps advanced drivers elsewhere. You need the right number of firearms officers.
Correct.
So
yeah.
it's the management of the resource across these different subsets.
Yes, that's correct.
When you've got abstractions for leave or
yes.
for court duties or for...
Yes.
There's a long list there, I imagine.
There's and one of the big things that impacts on us is around training as well, because each officer has their own, CPD around trainer that they've got to try and fulfill each year. We've got mandated training. We have training that comes via the College of Police and or even, from government that we need to deliver. And obviously, each officer's got their own personal development and training that they like to try and achieve as well. So again, we've got specific training days to allocate some of that to, and then we've got an allocation total that we try to manage as well to make sure that each of those training leads facilitates that training in a way that's appropriate and enables us to deal again with daily business. So we've got management structures around making sure that occurs.
So tell us about a typical week in the resource management unit. Is there a cycle or is there not a typical week at all?
Yeah, there probably is a typical week. So a typical week for us is we generally forecast a week's duties a week in advance. We find that if we try to go further than a week, so many things change that it doesn't end up with what you forecast anyway. So for us on a Monday, it would be coming in the morning, it would be checking those statistics that we put out for the week before and making sure actually are they still alive, are they still where they need to be, and then identifying through that week from the Monday through to the Sunday, have we got any pinch points, have we got any areas that because we risk assess and we call it RAG level, red, amber, green level each of the days to see if we've got any sort of red days, where we need to be moving resources around in order to provide backfill. Also then assessing any events or key crimes, incidents or anything else where we need to perhaps move resources around, and then just keeping fleet of foot really to make sure that what we've planned lands. And then for me personally, it's around going to each of those managers and saying, actually, if you've got anything else coming up, ideally as far in advance as we possibly can to identify, to put those structures in place, those plans to get ourselves as ahead as we possibly can. So our challenge really the whole time is to forward plan constantly, knowing that it will be unpicked, to then plug the gaps. That's typically of us for a week.
So best laid plans, and yet there will be events, unexpected events, that mean on the day that you need to react to that.
Yes, and that is virtually every day. That is the way that it operates. We will have best laid plans in place and they will get picked daily, but it's policing. That's what happens. You can never account for everything. So we plan as best we can and then we replan.
So my recollection is that you came into this role in March 2020.
Yes.
Now, March 2020 is a month that is
etched in memory
of those, I suspect, pretty much worldwide.
Yeah.
March 2020 here in the UK was the month when lockdown really started, and the knowledge of COVID-19 really started to become, it's a pretty common word. That so that month was the month you started in this resource planning unit. What was that like?
Challenging, shall we say. So when I first arrived, we used to have an office here at headquarters where the whole team would meet together. I landed, was new in role. I think it was on about probably week 2 of me being here. I got asked to go to a silver briefing where we had some intelligence around a potential problem coming in on a cruise ship that may well impact on the UK on the whole, and a potential pandemic that may kick off. So we knew that was a threat that was, around the corner. But at that time, we were seeing nothing here, but we knew something was coming. So from that point, my team were tasked with home working, which wasn't really a thing, if I'm honest, at that point. So we grabbed a load of laptops and I sent to each of my planners to start home working, and we set up a new process around them. What we now call as modern workplace working. We're actually working from home.
You needed the resilience. You couldn't afford for any member of your team to,
no.
At that stage, I think, to be 14 days in confinement.
Yeah, so the big threat for us was the one thing that we were worried about was resource management. My team managed resources, and yet, as you've said, if one of them got COVID at that point, we would potentially have wiped out the entirety of the team for 14 days, which we clearly couldn't do. So the safest option at that point was to, spread to all corners of Suffolk, which we did, and then continue to work. And we've actually worked like that to date. And obviously then we managed through the pandemic, which again was a challenge in itself.
And so you've maintained that home working approach, so it's working well for you?
I'd honestly say it actually works better than it did before. Yeah, we've taken some new technology on with regards to that. So we now use Microsoft Teams as a method of communicating. We've set up daily management meetings with all of the team where we can communicate. We've started using shared profiles to share data, to share spreadsheets, to share planning, and enabled the team to kind of work a little bit more fluidly, where they can all see across what each other is doing and actually all help each other out. And I'd actually say that process is better than it probably was before.
Yeah. And you touched on technology there. So do you find that technology has much impact in the work that you do?
Yeah, a great deal. Obviously, we're reliant on a duty management system to forecast all of our duties, to be able to plan ahead, to do all that stuff that I was talking about around events and stuff. So I'm part of a national group where we've started looking at best practice to try and get some of that practice into Suffolk as well, so that we are in the best position we can be to use 2023 technology, I would say, to actually forecast ahead, to be able to run reports instantly without them being manually updated, which is still a work in progress, but we are moving towards that in a much better position than we've ever been.
And yet an opportunity also to embrace technology further in the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm constantly out there, searching for better products, for better methods, talking to colleagues to say, is there a way that we can streamline this to actually make it more efficient? And inevitably, there usually is. It's just finding that product at the end of the day. But yeah, things are getting better.
It's a key area in policing, any policing jurisdiction, making sure that the right number of officers and staff are in the right place at the right time. Events, absences through sickness, court duties and so on and so forth will always be pulling, I suspect, at the daily challenges. But for the meantime, Inspector Richard Hill of the Resource Management Unit here in Suffolk Constabulary, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Cheers, thank you.